project person, and through that project I came to know these two, which has just been really great. And we've travelled all around the communities and worked together and exchanged ideas, and we've scavenged and beach combed and done all sorts of things. So that's sort of really, that project has brought us together. And when we were working with communities, we used to watch how they would work together, and you know, and the actual medium of weaving tends. I'm from a fine art painting and printmaking background, but weaving, I noticed, really brought people together and to share, and people would sit around and tell stories and giggle and laugh. Whereas with painting, it's more solitary in your studio. So we were talking about this and thought, wouldn't it be great for us to get together and you know, have a show together, and we can do the same thing, giggle and laugh, because that's what we used to do a lot when we were working. So that was a really, you know, wonderful thing for us, you know, because we get on really well. So we all went off and did our different things, and we'd come together and meet in each other's studios every now and again and see what we were doing and get ideas and help each other out. I'd been working on a dog thing for some time. I did a series of prints called Tip Dog Diaries that were about dogs in communities, because I was always fascinated about how connected people were to dogs, and how dogs related to communities and to their owners, and you know, each dog, when you looked at a dog, it could sort of tell some sort of story. So basically that's what I did with the exhibition of prints. But then from that I went into working with ghost nets. I thought, well, I better do some ghost net work. And I've really never done any fibre work at all until I got together with Marion up in Moa Island. So basically I just thought, oh, well, I'll just continue on this dog thing and tell the story three-dimensionally. The dogs I've created here are just, basically I've just made a heavy galvanised wire frame with chicken wire over the top, and then a lot of stitching. And this net, this net that I use a lot of is an actual net that they collect, the Indigenous rangers collect masses of it up along the top end of Australia. And Ghost Nets works with Indigenous rangers to collect this net because it does so much environmental damage and kills so much marine life. But this is one of the main nets that kill things, because it has a lot of floats on the top and they get so much of it. And it's also really soft and nice to use. So anyway, meticulously I've been stitching, which isn't really my nature, but I've had fun with it. And the teeth are whittled out of the beach thongs that Lynnette and I went on a collection trip.
Beach what?
Beach thongs. Thongs. So they look really sinister teeth, but they're actually soft rubber. Yeah, you can touch them. And Lynnette and Marion, I was thinking, because I've done these dogs with, been making dogs without eyes. I was like spirit dogs. And I thought, oh, I should make some eyes. So we were sitting up in my studio, and Marion said, I might make some little irises and pupils. And she stitched that little discs out of ghost net, and Lynnette made a little mould and cast the eyes out of resin for that one. So anyway, I've been talking a bit, so I'll introduce Marion, which you'd probably know.
We'll do a tag team.
Before you start, Marion, anybody in the back that just wants to take a minute and move a little bit forward so you can see the work while the artists are talking, you can sort of gather around in a circle. So Marion might talk and gather it around.
So I having gone with Lynnette a few times to Darney Island before I did the ghost net, and then to Moa Island, or St Paul's. I really like the idea that the way Torres Strait Island people have headdresses and costumes, dance costumes, so that I'll do the fish and the other animals as costumes of some sort of headdresses. So there's an octopus on the wall that's actually a headdress, and it can be worn on the head, and the crocodile is also a headdress, and the arms and legs are for your own arms and legs. They don't fit very well, but it looks good. But it looks really good on the wall too. But it's also a headdress, and these three fish are the headdress. And what I really wanted to get out of this was continuing to work with Sue and Lynnette, because Sue being in Ravenshoe and Lynnette being in Cairns, it's really hard to stay in contact with people, and I like that community influence of things. So the video behind Therese is a community thing that I did on Magnetic Island that Penelope and George did as a video, and it's really worthwhile watching how that mural evolved as a community. And I really do like the interaction with other people, because you learn so much from other people while you're working with them. And then Lynnette and I did some collaborative jewellery pieces, which is a really fun. We actually work in quite an interesting way, which I won't go into now, but it's sort of successful, isn't it, Lynnette? So, and then I had to introduce at least some plant fibre into the work, so I did some sort of bombing coral type shapes using my plant fibre. Okay, and then I guess I'm going to introduce Lynnette, and then at the end we can ask questions of us. Yeah, your turn.
Hi. Being involved in the GhostNet project's been really great for me, because I've been able to reconnect with people and meet other people and work in different communities. Like Marion and Sue said, I've worked mainly in the Torres Straits for well over 20 years now. I started at TAFE College up there and went on to help art centres establish up there. And so that's been a really long journey with community, but it's been a long journey with the sea as well, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, because I grew up on a boat and lived part of my life here in Townsville as well as a kid. So like the sea and what happens in the sea and the degradation of our waters and coastal waters has been really important through my whole life as well. So kind of moving into ghost nets was a departure from ceramics, which is what I was doing quite a lot of, although originally I trained as a graphic designer, but I do quite a lot of ceramics, and so it was a movement kind of out of that, I guess, but also then both adding the ghost net to the ceramics and then moving out of that as a form as well, and making it transportable, because anyone who works in ceramics knows how difficult ceramics are to transport. So up from there, like it's really hard. So also working with community, I work collaboratively with a lot of Indigenous artists, and Dana is probably the art centre that's building, it's not going to phone, thank goodness, building the largest pieces. So trying to keep abreast with ideas in terms of being able to help people and facilitate that building. Like when you're trying to sort of keep, not ahead, but yeah, abreast of what people are doing is really important. So finding armatures and different things out of found objects is really important. So that mackerel that's centrally lit behind you there, the rings of that are from the crab pots that you find on the beach. Those collapsible crab pots that are everywhere now. Well, they get abandoned heaps, so that's got that in it. And the one here with the thong teeth, that's yabby trapper, and it's actually made out of 2 yabby pots as well that were found. So it's using both the armatures and the other stuff. Behind there is a pufferfish, and that's made with gutta gutta that you also find readily on the beach. So everything that you find, I think, is usable, and the trendy word is upcycling now, but I don't really care. I've always used found things, so, and I think the 3 of us working together was really important to be able to share those ideas. I don't think artists quite often, especially when you work in Indigenous communities, you don't get to share enough with people, and that's a really important thing. And like Sue said, the weaving, bringing the weaving into that, because weaving is a sharing thing, was a nice departure from what we all, well, not what we all do, because Marion is a weaver and basket maker, but to be able to extend on that. So Marion and I did some collaborative pieces in terms of the little faces and little people behind and like Marion said, those big wall sort of jewellery pieces in the cabinet came about as components. And over this time, I think what we've all gained from it at the end is being able to say, oh, where can we go from here? Like, what's our next step? And what will be the next sort of incarnation of what we do? And whether it's together or some of us together or not, you know, like it's about that sharing. And I think that was one of the really important things for me. And I've got heaps out of it, and it's been really fabulous. So, thanks all for coming. And
so if anyone's got any
questions and stuff, yeah, it would be great.
Well, we can just
the whole exhibition. Oh, we started talking about it a year and a half ago.
I reckon a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago, yeah. And we all knew that we, you know, had sort of specialist sort of areas and how we could bring that together.
And we were so busy, weren't we? It was really hard.
And it's amazing how much you can get done in the last 2 weeks. But yeah, we did do a lot of visiting each other and talking. Where when it got close to the day, we visited each other and actually worked. So yeah, it was one of those things.
We did a lot of laughing.
Yeah, and we trying to sort things through. But a deadline is a really good thing to target your head and say, we're not talking, we're just going to start working this weekend.
And I think because we all put so much energy into being arts workers as well as just artists, that yeah, it's hard to find that time just collectively. Yeah, collection.
Well, in not so long when you're going up to Banniger or Mornington Island where there's nets everywhere. So Magnetic Island is surprisingly how many nets and rope and that is on Magnetic Island as well. So you just have to have that one mission and go, wow, we've got quite a bit in one haul really. But these two went to Banniger and came back with 2 big bags like this of thongs.
This one can find anything anywhere.
Hi, Jamie.
Oh, hello, Jamie.
With conservation programs, like how much would be, retrieved nets and things that you have to treat with the salt? Have you any idea how they get alive?
They float around for years in the ocean.
That's true, but
We just-
will they last now that they're in someone's?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, most of them, like you can tell when they start breaking down, they've been in the sun and on the beach, back out to the ocean, back again. They've been sitting in the sun for a long time, and when it gets to that point, you can tell that they're breaking down because they start to, become quite little hairs falling off. But I think most of the net that we've used is pretty permanent.
Yeah, I made a piece for Strand Ephemera last year, not Strand Ephemera, for Cairns Esplanade last year, out of thongs, and it was installed in the water, and it got quite, like water and salt saturated during that time, and it's sat in my backyard since then. I live on the beach, and it's sat in my backyard since then, and hasn't deteriorated at all.
Yeah,
so
it wouldn't. Inside, if it wasn't out in the weather, particularly the sun, it would just they'd last for a very, very long time. Your lifetime.
That's probably true, but I'm just wondering how, like museums and galleries.
Well, what we love about the Ghost Net project is that when we're sending pieces, and often like Lynette's bigger pieces that she works with Darnley and some of the other artists' work, it's virtually indestructible, and often you can just roll it up or squash it into a box, and then we pull it out and it's like, give it a few punches and pulls, and then it's in shape again. Including some of the baskets, we can treat them really roughly, and then they just spring back.
And they definitely last heaps longer than any grass basket that they are in collections already. So, the grass baskets in collections, once they're in a museum, they look after them.
If there was somebody from the museum was busy when you were packing it up, they probably wouldn't let you do that.
No, they wouldn't.
No, we just recently went to Sydney, and where they've just bought, the museum in Sydney's just bought a large piece from the Darnley Island ladies, a big sea blanket it's a big sort of woven blanket out of ghost net, and they've just commissioned us for another piece that's about 4.5 metres tall, some kind of big fish or something. Anyway, yeah, I took it down in a stripy bag. And when we got to talk about it, we all got given gloves.
So have you had any talk with any conservators from the museums once it's been added to their collection, what the conservators are going to do to it? Because it would be interesting to know if they're going to wash them beforehand or if they're just going to accept them.
No, they've sprayed them. And
forensic spray, I guess.
Yeah, you know, like and frozen them.
Yep, that would get rid
and that's all. And then they've been allowed into collection because when I did take that one in the stripy bag, they were, you know, like they were like, oh, we can't let this downstairs.
Yeah, it has to go through conservation in one way.
Yeah, and it did, and but it was fine. But like I said, we had to wear white gloves. But I can't see any longevity problems with them really. Yeah, the worst problem with some of the stuff, I guess, is the metal components more than the rust from the metal components.
And I know with my work, I used to just chuck it when I was finished in the compost bin. Now I've got these things and I take them home and go, now what do I do with them? You know, because they're going to last for a long time and not break down. So I'm on the other end of it. I'd like them to break down and they're not. So.
If you could just talk, for example, about some of the large pieces that are in the jewelry case, and the reason I'm selecting those is because there's such a diversity of mediums and techniques, and you know, in that. So, yeah, I mean, we've got ceramics and resin and all, you know, baskets, and so yeah, maybe just pick one or two about those. Pick one of those or something.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I guess that this first one, this end cupboard, has a lot of components in it. Marion was really concerned.
Because I'm a basket maker, I wanted to make some baskets because all the drawers and printmakers were putting drawings and prints in the exhibition. So I made these little baskets, but then I was concerned on how they would look in this sort of show. So Lynnette turns up.
Yeah, the other day we came down and we talked about making these large wall necklaces, and I'd envisaged even larger pieces. But anyway, Marion had these baskets, and she said, "Oh no, I'd really like these in the show because they are baskets." And I said, "Oh, we could do this," and so we started putting together different elements. But I'd also been setting a whole pile of things in resin. I just recently sort of started working with a bit of resin. And the lures on these middle ones are all squid lures that you find on the ghost nets. They're all entangled in this net that Sue was talking about, this Indonesian net. So, and they're deadly, you know, like with all the prongs on them. So I wanted to preserve them in something, so I made the floats and I've cast them in resin, and I wanted to make them as the kind of, I guess, blingy bits in jewellery. And so I made large bangle beads and set shells and rope and stuff in them as well. So it was just a combination of making elements of things and then like I've been setting net in the resin and stuff, because I want to experiment a little bit more with that. So that's kind of moving it, I guess, out of the clay field for me, but still into a material that I can manipulate, pour and mould and all the things that I do with clay. Yeah, so.
And then when we were both in Darnley last time, the Darnley ladies love flowers, and I'd done all the flowers on Magnetic Island, the K-pop flowers and the white flowers, and then Lynnette goes, "Oh, we could do a hibiscus." So she puts me on the task of making a hibiscus, and she makes the middle out of the resin. And then said, "Well, what about a frangipani?" So sort of I had the task of making the flowers, and she made the middle bits. You know, I do what I'm told. I do what I'm told. But you know what I guess I was getting at is that project on Magnetic Island made me think about something that's then been taken further and used in this way.
But Mary and I are really happy with these three pieces, and this is one of the elements of this show that we kind of have been talking over the last few days that has a lot more potential in a lot of different ways for these sort of larger kind of, what we call wall necklaces, but you know, like they might morph into something else later, but the idea of making components or modules and then putting them together is something that we both have done quite a lot of over the years, and it's about a way that we both work. Yeah, so it's just been a matter of putting them together.
They could be quail necklaces.
Whale necklaces, yeah. Whale catchers.
And so the only other collaborative piece in the show is the dog at the front. So Sue and Lynnette did a welding workshop together. So I didn't go
in summer.
and so they did this, and Sue went home and welded that dog that's in the front, and it was this really beautiful shape, but the framework was all rusty and daggy in her front yard. So we turned up and Lynnette says, "I'm taking that home and doing something with it." So then she farms it on to me and I did something to it. So that's our collaborative piece of the show, the most collaborative piece of the show, and it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Yeah. We just thought, I hope she doesn't mind what we're doing to her dog.
I was just thinking about the story of like how we pack things into boxes and stuff, and you can just push them into the box. And we were talking this morning over a cup of tea about one brief that Lynnette and Marion had was in Bamega. We were invited into a show, GhostNets were invited in a show in Paris, and we wanted to include a collaborative piece. So Lynnette and Marion were going up to Bamega, and the brief was, can you make something that can be folded up and put in a suitcase with dots?
And with probably 20 different individuals who haven't really done much with GhostNet, but if there's some sort of component that they could make that would add, and it would be theirs, and stuffing it. So we made a gecko. Well, more than 20 people really turned up and made this gecko.
Yeah. He's on that slideshow over there. There's a sort of slideshow that...
he's touring France at the moment.
Yeah, he is touring France at the moment. James Tony helped us put together, and there's a whole pile of images on that from different workshops, different communities, and different bits of work that may not have been included in this exhibition. But yeah, so if you have some time to watch a bit of that, there's some
You'll
quite...
see how much fun we have up there.
and the range of people that we work with, like sometimes you get into community and you get the school group, or you get the aftercare, or you get the hack, or you get the oldies, or whatever, and that's really nice too, it challenges you, but it's really nice to be able to work with a diverse group of people. You're not just going to just work with artists a lot of the time, you're working with all people who have some awareness, because most people who live in communities on the Cape and the Torres Straits have a real awareness of this destruction that this net's doing. It gets caught in propellers, the animals die, it's all over their beaches, and people really don't know what to do with it. So,
and they get so excited when they're walking or in their dinghies, and they spot something like a special type of net, they get really excited about it, that it's a new colour or a type that somebody's after.
Watch that video of the magnetic island. We're going to be doing it for 2 or 3 weeks, and we went to a beach, and it's quite funny, the video. Oh, look what I found! Oh, look at the colour in this! Anyway, so that sort of happens all the time. And look at this thong, it's different to every other thong I've found. So.
And it's sort of interesting because what is initially seen as rubbish and a real problem, when it's gathered up, it has a value. When it's in the art centre or if people are going to use it, it's suddenly valuable and people start trading bits. Trading this bit for that bit. That's because you turned your back, Marion.